If you love the thrill of racing but hate the risks, then buckle up. Everything Simulated is here to merge adrenaline with absolute safety. In a world where technology meets adrenaline, Everything Simulated is revolutionizing driver training with state-of-the-art simulators. From truck training to the thrill of motorsports, our simulators offer the most realistic experiences across all automotive applications. Gone are the days of endless bookwork and basic drills. Now it's all about hands-on, pulse-pounding action that prepares you for the real deal. Whether you're maneuvering a heavy mining vehicle or racing a high-speed car, our simulators, equipped with cutting-edge technology from leaders like SimRigs and Track Racer, bring every nuance of the drive to life. And talk about making a mark. We're not just building simulators, we're fostering talent. From grassroots motorsports to professional series like the Aussie Outlaw GT3, sponsored by us, Everything Simulated is fueling dreams and careers. Ready to feel the excitement of the racetrack under your fingertips? Connect with us, and let's build your next simulator adventure together. Remember, we support those who support us. Join the Everything Simulated family, and let's race towards the future.
Well, a very good evening to you race fans and welcome to the Everything Simulated F4 Championship supported by Player One Sim Gear. We're kicking off a brand new FDL season here at the Bend Motorsport Park, one of Australia's newest and most technical circuits here on the iRacing calendar, and we have got a full grid of hungry drivers ready to begin their campaign for Formula Drivers League glory. My name is Jared Cole, and if you haven't been here before, welcome to Simple Racing Broadcasts. Joining me in the commentary box tonight is Josh Harrison. Josh, what a way to start this season. Wide tarmac, flowing corners, a real mix of high speed and technical sectors. The Bend offers just about every kind of challenge you could throw at a race car, doesn't it?
Yeah, it absolutely does, Jared. Good evening. Thank you very much for having me along. I can't wait to get started here at FDL for round one. The Bend's pretty exciting. One of the newest tracks in iRacing. One of the newest, long, good quality permanent racing circuits in the world in real life. Very exciting and can't wait to get started.
Absolutely right. Let's take a quick look at the race format, and apologies for those of you left waiting while we just sorted out a few technical hitches just before we got underway here tonight. The format tonight is a sprint round, which means two races. First up, lone qualifying, which is going on right now. 6 minutes to get 2 laps in, so our drivers out on track doing their best to set the fastest time that they can in the search of that elusive pole position. Then we get a 15-minute race here around the international circuit. Following that, we'll go to an open qualifying session for 10 minutes as we get to race 2, which is a 30-minute race altogether. In both races tonight, 13 litres of fuel in the tank to start with. However, no fuel restriction in play. So that means that drivers can absolutely in that second race come in on lap 1 and fuel to the end if that suits their strategy. In race 1, we're not expecting to need a refuel at all. So going to be very, very interesting to see what sort of strategy plays out in that second race tonight. Josh, what do you reckon? A lot of first lappers, or are we going to see a bit of a halfway, or I don't even know what to predict tonight, honestly.
No, and I think, Jared, it really does depend on circumstance. Early safety car, definitely you take that, you dive in, you do your pit stop, you get going. I think, though, that we're going to see one or the other. So we're either going to see lots of early or run your car absolutely empty. I don't think we'll see anyone taking those mid-length stints. But it's going to be interesting and really exciting. These cars are a lot of fun to drive and a lot of fun to watch, so I can't wait to see them get out on track and get started.
Absolutely, and on that note, we should be only a matter of seconds away from having our grid set as some of the drivers just finish up their last laps now. There's not much left in it, and with only 6 minutes around such a long track, really the drivers having no time at all. They needed to be in the car straight out there. What we're seeing tonight is with track conditions looking pretty good. 4.8k track, 21 degree track temp. We're seeing some reasonably consistent times and some fairly quick times. Mid 146 seems to be the time to beat around here this evening, with a lot of the drivers finding themselves in the high 46s, low 47s. So, when you consider almost 2 minutes for a lap and only 6 minutes to set a time, it does not give you much room to play with at all. We are just about ready to take a look at the grid for this evening's sprint round, and it looks a little something like this, if you'll excuse the random Ferrari pop-up. The pole position tonight going to Benjamin Roberts from DPR Racing with Hayden Millington alongside, followed by Kane Ryder and Oshan Colangelo. Then Josh Perwin and Tom Donahoe on the third row. Thomas Hins and Dan Ackland behind them. Then Daniel Byrne and Richard Banerjee behind them, rounding out your top 10. As we take a look at the next set, Scott Pocock and Seth Burkhart's in 11th and 12th, Alexi Watson and Vaughan Ryder behind them, with Mitchell Hathaway and Todd Parks in 15th and 16th. Darren Fay and Josh Marsh behind them. Pete Zeidler and Tristan McLaren round out your top 20, with Ben Ryder and William Fraser behind them. Adrian Loretti and Geordie Slater on row number 12. Then Danny Davison and Dylan DeBono finishing off the grid. We've got a few of our race control team going up as usual. Lachlan Capel and Scott Bartime will be in control of the safety car this evening. And Josh, for you and I, certainly some names that we recognise from the tin top coverage that we've done before, and a few names there that we don't recognise. It'll be very, very interesting to see what tonight's sprint round brings.
Yeah, absolutely, and such a short, sharp start to the night, Jared. What have we got? A 13-lap race one. It's going to be very quick. There's no doubt about that. Short, sharp to the point, in and out, and then into the longer race further tonight. New series to me, not 100% sure, but I'll tell you what, I've got my eyes on Oshan Colangelo there on the second row. A bit of a name for those who have paid a bit of attention to the sim world. Young lady, she's only 15 or 16 years of age and is
properly
insanely fast.
Yeah,
so I'm really excited to see how Oshan goes tonight.
We are just about ready to get underway. Only 2 minutes to get on the grid here, so drivers have very little time to play with. We should be receiving word any moment as we go down to the audio on the grid. And here we go, the first race of the season. I hope you're ready for this. Hold on to your hat, folks. The lights come up and we are green here at the Bend as Roberts leads us away on lap one. The field starting to pull away as we make our way down towards turn one, and a fairly clean start all around. Of course, turn one, always the question, as we see 2-3 wide and moves already being made as Ryder and Millington swap places. Perwin looks for an opportunity to get through as well. So far, so good. Very, very clean and tidy racing. This is a circuit, though, Josh, where you have to get into your rhythm because the flow is everything.
Yeah, it's a really interesting track. I haven't done enough laps around here, to be honest, Jared, to have a huge amount of opinion, but a couple of really interesting corners, some off-camber stuff, and of course the international circuit that we're using tonight really uses a couple of shortcuts compared to the longer GT circuit, and they just present a couple of little challenges in getting between one part of the circuit and another, but it's a fantastic track, and more elevation change than you might realise when you first look at it. And as you said, a huge amount of rhythm to this place. We can see that our drivers have already fallen so quickly, line astern, and in that nice little train. We see witches' hats, cones going absolutely everywhere in the background.
Just exploring the track limits, Josh. Just exploring the track limits.
Absolutely, a couple of drivers really exploring track limits. These cars, Jared, really fun to drive. A lot of, probably not as popular in our iRacing world as something like the Super Formula Light, which is, over-tired and over-aeroed for the amount of power that it has. These F4 cars really nicely match between their power and aero, and when we talk about matching your power and aero, low power means low aero. These cars love to move around, they love to slide, and certainly on the cold tire we've seen a number of drivers just go and explore a little bit of the paddock here at the Bend. But lap one down already, a 15-minute race. It's not going to last all that long at all. And a couple of moves there that we see as we look at this battle for the podium, that looks to me to be Kurt Ryder under
Kane Ryder and Josh Purwine in
Kane
the
Ryder.
third, absolutely. Yeah. So a lot of pressure there from Josh Purwine just on the inside. This is one of the really interesting things to me, and for those of you who've been around the Simple Racing broadcast channel for a little while, a big lock up there from Millington on the entry to the corner has barely saved it, but that is going to risk Ryder getting ahead. The really interesting thing that I find about the open wheel format that we're now going to be watching here tonight, we are so used to not only tin tops but particularly V8 supercars with very, very little aero, very little slipstream to worry about. Everything changes when you get into the F4, doesn't it? These guys they're going to be chasing the best top speed they can down that straight through a huge amount of aero assistance from the car in front. And we're going to see a lot more opportunities to overtake because of that than what we're probably used to.
Yeah, absolutely. These cars are good fun to drive and not the easiest to overtake in, but it's certainly a different style of racing to what we're used to here on this broadcast channel. But nonetheless, it is very exciting racing, Jared. And we now see Ben Roberts has just started to make a little bit of a break. He's eked out nearly a full second to Hayden Millington in second, who on his own has pulled out nearly what's he got? Nearly 7/10 to third. It's interesting up the front. Definitely the battle between Ryder and Purwine is slowing those guys down and really allowing the first two to sort of make a bit of a break.
Further down the field, Bourne Ryder and Geordie Slater going side by side into turn one. It looks like Ryder will get the best of him here. Well, not quite. Slater's actually going through. So there you go. We get some cloud cover coming across. That may cause some track temperature issues. We'll see how we go. We've still got, 11 minutes to run here in this sprint round. All looking pretty clean so far, but quite a number of battles going on as we see Scott Pocock and Alexi Watson going side by side. We're going three wide almost on the run down into this turn, and always a risk. We've got, looks like Kane Ryder's gone off the track there. And on top of that, Thomas Hinds has had a big moment. And we'll go back and take a quick look, see what's happened to him here.
If I'm not mistaken, Jared, I just caught this just in front of that there. I'm pretty sure that's Team Max Boost on Team Max Boost contact, which will, the very first rule of racing is that you don't touch your teammates, and unfortunately there for Team Max Boost, just tripping over each other, which is a big shame, and some interesting times in that voice chat, no doubt.
No doubt. Banerjee makes a move and gets past Hinds, probably just recovering from that, and further up the field, Dan Ackland just made the pass as well. Tom Donahoe's just struggling to keep the pace at the moment. That said, not a whole lot in it. Thomas Hinds, though, in the background, just starting to struggle a little up out in front. Surprised to see the amount of gap that's already beginning to open up. Benjamin Roberts from DPR Racing really doing a stellar job out in front, and Hayden Millington staying with him. But as he said before, the battle that Perlin was having with Ryder just slowing the rest of the pack down completely. As Daniel Byrne now runs alongside with Ackland as they come into turn one. Plenty of racing room given, and that's the other very interesting thing when you get to open wheel racing. All of a sudden these guys actually give each other space because you can't really rub panels in an F4 so much.
You can, but the consequences are pretty high, Jared. It's usually a one-time only thing. But yeah, this is a very different vibe of racing to what we typically cover. But it's pretty impressive to see as we do look at one of the Team Max Boost cars.
A bit of a moment, but has made it back on track. Unfortunately, with all the debris on the tyres, losing contact. Very, very lucky not to slide into some of the other cars around at the time. So well handled in the end, but could have been disastrous.
Just looking through this driver list, and every time I see one of these replays, Jared, I'm nearly seeing Team Max Boost on Team Max Boost contact, and just rolled my eyes over the entry list. There's quite a number of Team Max Boost cars here tonight, and that probably explains why it's going to be hard for one of those guys to have a moment and not come into contact with one of their other drivers. But fantastic to see a nice, strong racing team out here on track. really well. Oh no, as we see there,
Pocock running wide, taking Hathaway with him by the look of things.
Yeah, tripped over that inside curve. A couple of these curves you can see here in shot now. There's a nice flat curve, and then at the very back of it, there's a bit of a sausage curve there, and it just looked like Pocock accidentally tripped over that taller bit of the curve and unsettled the car and took someone out on the way through, unfortunately.
Take a look at this as we come down the straight. We're watching Josh Marsh, Dylan De Bono in the background. Has the slipstream. Whether he'll be able to do anything with it is the question. Plenty of ducking and weaving going on to just try and break that toe as best they can. De Bono looks to the inside. It's going to be tight. We'll need to get back into the line, but at this stage, positions remain unchanged. A little bit of swapping around in the background. Darren Fay and Tristan McLaren fighting out for 22nd, 23rd. And certainly running a bit more side by side than you usually see through that particular section of the track, but it does give us a very, very good idea of what to expect for the longer race later, I think, Josh.
Yeah, absolutely. This is all-out warfare, Jared. You've only got 15 minutes to get yourself a position to grab any points that you can.
Another Max Boost car facing backwards. That's Ben Ryder.
That is not what we like to see.
On the upside, undamaged.
Look, that's always a positive in an open wheeler. An interesting thing here, Jared, obviously another qualifying session for our next race, which is pretty unique to FDL in the iRacing world, certainly from the leagues that I have been involved in. And it really does mean that you can afford to have a genuine scrap in this sprint race. And whilst no one wants to have an incident, if it was to come to it, it's not the end of the world, because you get to go out and qualify all over again for the second race. So you certainly have the ability to throw caution to the wind a bit more in this first sprint race.
Yeah, which is always a bit of fun, especially for us as viewers, right? We get to actually see these guys throwing the cars a little bit harder than they perhaps ordinarily would when the finishing position determines where you're starting in race number 2. That said, offset a little bit by the fact that they are fairly fragile cars to begin with, so there's only so much extra you're really safe to do that with, but certainly does make for a very, very interesting opening race, and looking forward to seeing what open qualifying brings us in the next session as well. We see a little bit of a train starting to form up here. Not a lot of separation from really Tom Donahoe in 8th, Thomas Hinds in 9th, and then this pack behind Hinds, you can see is almost more like what we expect to see in supercars, just a line astern of cars, and it's not something I'm used to seeing in open wheeler too often either. Further up though, Byrne and Ackland right in there, and Ackland with a beautiful position to take advantage of this slipstream. As we get through this sequence of corners, there's going to be a straight that opens up for him in just a moment. All he has to do is hold on long enough to still have that speed advantage on the way out. Byrne's going to be doing everything he can to shake him. And of course, Seth Burkhart's from Tulip Racing right behind to look for an advantage as well. Do we see Ackland make the move, or does he save it for the straight? Can't get it done just yet, but here we go.
It's brewing up to be some fantastic racing, and for round 1, Jared, these guys are, appear to be having a real ball. Certainly not easing their way into it. There is still plenty of track limits being explored, and no one is really willing to give up the position they're in at the moment. We do head around the final couple of corners there. Those guys will be battling away on the straight, but this battle pack is going to be absolutely fantastic to watch as we head around the final corner, the longest straight on the track now, and really give these guys the opportunity to open the legs as much as they can. We see cars moving around on the straight as usual, trying to break that slipstream, making sure that the car behind doesn't have a huge advantage, and we really do get to see some interesting moves coming into turn 1 based on just the nature of these cars, and it's really exciting to see these guys continuing to race. I do know, Jared, I didn't quite see in the background who exactly it was, but there was a pretty big moment into turn 1 just before.
Looks like it might have been Josh Marsh, actually, and we'll go back and we'll take a look at that in just a moment, because right now the battle is on for P2. This is a podium battle right here between Byrne and Millington. And look at who it is sneaking up behind as these guys lose time in amongst it. It's Oshan Colangelo from Team Max Boost. Ever so slowly chipping away at the tenths here. If she does get within striking distance, this is going to get very, very interesting with only a few minutes left to go. They're probably going to get about another 2 laps in here. maybe 3, depending on when Roberts crosses the line. But Roberts with 2.5 seconds out in front, looking very, very comfortable. Let's go back and take a look at Josh Marsh's incident.
Yeah, this is the one, Jared. So absolutely saw these guys fan out 3 wide here, and unfortunately just a little touch in the back for Josh Marsh in the Tulip racing car, and that ended up not only affecting his race, but also taking out at least one innocent bystander on the way through, which is a real shame.
Yeah, not what we'd like to see, but hey, it's one of the risks of racing at the end of the day, as we keep our eyes on this battle up front. The changing of the guard almost throughout this pack is really interesting to watch. I wasn't expecting there to be quite so much movement right throughout, but the nature of this track here at the Bend, even though there are quite a number of turns around this 4.5 odd K international circuit, they're at such a high pace that the aero effect is really still present in behind the drivers in front, and so you're able to make up so much ground through the turns compared to what I was probably expecting.
Yeah, and easy to lose time when you get into a battle, Jared. So on that last lap, Hayden Millington bleeding 7/10 to Ocean behind. He really needs to make sure that he focuses on keeping his lap speed up, because the battle for the back of the podium is about to absolutely ignite, and there is not I wouldn't say that there's a safe podium coming Millington's way. He really needs to make sure that he keeps his nose down and keeps moving forward. One thing, Jared, we talk about how competitive these guys and girls are. I've just had a bit of a look. The difference in best lap time across the first 5 cars is less than 1.5 tenths of a second, if you can believe that. So these, certainly the first 5 cars are absolutely locked for pace. They have all done between a 1 minute 46.8 and a 1 minute 46.95. It is absolutely phenomenal to see 5 cars so evenly matched, and that has continued all throughout the race. Obviously gaps have grown and shrunk depending on who's battling with who, but those first 5 cars really appear to have a pace all of their own. Having said that, though,
here comes Ackland up the inside of one.
I was going to say Dan Byrne in 5th has definitely fallen away from the 4 others that are really showing that fast pace.
Ackland's got a touch. Burkhardt has run into him. That spun them. What a place to be stopped. Ackland trying desperately to get underway. He's going to fall all the way down, 13th, perhaps even 14th by the time he gets going again. That was brutal, and unfortunately for Burkhardt, nowhere to go. So the 2 drivers get back underway, but a solid 10 places on further down the track. That's not what you would have been planning for, I'm sure.
No, and that's how quickly things can go wrong in these open wheelers, Jared. There's just no room to play. Everything goes from sunshine and rainbows to completely upside down in just the slightest of touches, and so easy to do. These drivers are really racing right on the edge, and such a shame for such a small mistake, such a small touch between 2 cars to have such big consequences.
Yeah, not what anyone plans for, but of course the other thing to note is that the visibility in terms of what's going on behind you, and really that's, in a lot of ways, that's where you can get caught out here. Dan Ackland was so focused on trying to get that pass done on Daniel Byrne, and just would not have had much of an idea of exactly where Burkhardt was behind. I'll leave that to race control to figure out what that looks like, if anything, as we see a big lock up there from Banerjee as Slater makes it up the inside, gets that pass done after tracking it for quite some time. As we see now, the finish of the race already sneaking up on us. Benjamin Roberts has just crossed the line, taken the win here in the sprint race. Perwin in 2nd, Millington in 3rd, and then a 4th for Colangelo, not too far behind as well. Banerjee and Ryder finishing not too far apart, and then Dan Ackland, Pete Zeidler all starting to cross the line now. It's I tell you what, it comes around so quickly, doesn't it, when you're talking just a 15-minute sprint race.
And those battles just continue, to happen. There's unfortunately, we did miss Ben Roberts there crossing the finish line, but it just shows how hard these drivers were battling. It was all the way to the death. No one was willing to just settle down and wait.
Absolutely spot on. We've got just a couple of drivers to complete their final laps now before we can give you the final results here for the sprint round as we get ready to go qualifying once again. The second race just ahead of us, 30 minutes after that qualifying session of all-out racing. And if that's what the first 15 minutes is bringing us tonight, I am pretty keen to see just what we have in store in that second race. Hope you've enjoyed the coverage so far, folks. Give us a shout out if you're floating around in the chat and you're not in a cockpit somewhere. What I have noted, Josh, a lot more racing penalties coming through in this series than what I generally see, and obviously a different set of rules at play. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out, because what we have now is the provisional results from race number 1.
Yeah, absolutely, we do. A huge number of penalties because the consequences are so much more in these open wheelers. But for race 1 tonight, Ben Roberts for DPR Racing takes out the win, leading home. Josh Perween for Vermilion Esports and Hayden Millington for Tulip Racing rounds out your podium. Ocean Colangelo in 4th, before Daniel Byrne, Tom Donahoe, Thomas Hinds, Geordie Slater, Richard Banerjee, Kane Ryder, rounding out your top 10. Look at those names of teams there, ladies and gents. There is a couple of big name sim racing teams in the mix here tonight. Danny Davison has just missed out on a top 10 position in 11th in front of Dylan De Bono, who, if I'm not mistaken, has had a pretty good race here to get up to 12th. Seth Burchart's obviously involved in a couple of incidents. Dan Ackland, Pete Zeidler, Mitch Hathaway, Todd Parks, Tristan McLaren up to 18th, having started right at the back of the field. Darren Fay and Vaughan Ryder rounding out your top 20.
Folks, it's time for us to jump across and get ready for open qualifying. We will be right back with you. Stay tuned as we make our way over to the second race server. Well, welcome back, folks. We are immediately into open qualifying, and already drivers getting out on track to set their first laps for the evening. As we see the drivers just on their out laps at the moment, watching Alexei Watson right now. And Josh, mate, what a start to this season! A huge first race, a few little incidents in there, plenty of passing going on, but wow, there is nothing to split the pace here.
No, that was a fantastic race, and I come back to my comments from before, Jared. I think it really shows just how good that race was. That we were so enthralled in the battles going on that we missed the timer. It's fantastic racing up and down the field, but really interesting cars these that you can break the slip, and once you've broken the slip, you should be able to drive away, provided that the people around you are battling with someone. So absolutely, there's no doubt about it. The plan for all of these drivers tonight: get themselves in a good position, let the car behind them start battling with someone, and then disappear up the road.
Yeah, that's always the best approach. At least I say so anyway. Josh Marsh now out on track for Tulip Racing. You can see the amount of steering input and the feedback that he's getting through the wheel. Very, very different to what we usually see from drivers in the thin tops. Probably a tad more aggressive on the arms here. What do you reckon, Josh?
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. These things are a little bit more aggressive in the steering. Open wheelers always are. There's quite a lot of steering load that comes through them. But Josh had a big smile on his face before, chatting away to his teammates in VC. He's enjoying his night, even if it hasn't gone entirely to plan so far.
Now, Ben Roberts currently sitting in third, looking to improve his time, but you talk about the minute difference in lap times. Open qualifying around about halfway over here, but already starting to see that there is actually a little more difference than I'd probably expect at this stage. And Roberts, for such a convincing win in race one, is struggling a little to improve his times here. Does have the purple sector in the second, so we'll see if it is enough for him to actually get there and pick up that pole position once again. Across the line, jumps over. There it is, a 46.3, so a cracking final sector to get him there.
Yeah, and interestingly about this session, Jared, a little bit more time, 10 minutes up their sleeve, the ability to, potentially grab a fresh set of tyres if they need to, but also being open qualifying. The absolute best thing, in my opinion, about open qualifying is the ability to jag some results, so you can really use the cars around you. Strategy actually starts to play a game even in qualifying, and for drivers like me, I'm not necessarily the fastest bloke in the world, Jared, and I love open qualifying because every now and then I just get the opportunity to dive a little bit further up the order than I might otherwise be, just through a little bit of good strategy. So these guys and girls will be having a bit of fun out there. But I reckon that by the end of this, we'll see that the cream will rise to the top, because that's just what happens.
Yeah, and already you're starting to see a few of the same names at the top end of this field as we get to just a few minutes to go. Still a couple of drivers yet to set a time despite having set some laps. So Daniel Byrne and Seth Burkhardt. We're watching Byrne right now, but Burkhardt also hasn't actually managed to record a time. So Byrne will be probably a bit slower here as he looks to record some kind of time, but still be a little bit more competitive. The Carlin's Motorsport entry, we'll see what he does as he comes across the line, but Burkhardt's is not too far behind. Hopefully able to actually get on the board and maybe even get themselves up from the base of the timing tower. Let's see what Byrne's delivered, and it is a 146.961, so jumping up to 13th, not a bad way to go. Burkhardt's immediately behind, has been on a pretty good run to improve the time. And there it is, a 46.8 effectively, so up into 9th. Very, very promising to actually see them setting the time. A little bit of movement up through the tower as well, as we see some of the top order changing ever so slightly. We do have the closest of qualifying times for second and third, 0.142, 0.143 between Hinz and Ryder. So nothing in it at the top end. It's a very, very different world here in open wheelers.
It absolutely is, and it's a lot of fun. These are, the amount of time, the gaps that we're seeing are so small. If these drivers can, grab themselves another hundredth of a second. If we look down the order, Jared, less than a second over the top 18 drivers, and most of them are really, really close to the car in front. There's one, what is there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 cars have all done a 46.7. So, these drivers just need to grab the tiniest margin and they can, grab themselves a number of positions. We see, we talked in the first race about just how fast Ocean is. She is, she's all the way back in 10th. If she can just go 1/10 faster, she will go all the way from 10th up to 4th, which is just phenomenal.
But of course, as the tyres start to get a heat in them, everyone's starting to speed up. Slater's just jumped 3 or 4 spots with that particular lap. So it's really, really tight. Really interesting to see the difference in lap times, as well as just a bit of extra grip becomes available to these drivers with the temps rising in the tyre set that they're on. Kane Ryder now coming around, looking to improve. Can he steal second spot away with what will be his final lap here? Can't do it, a much slower lap in the end. But we look like, with 30 seconds to go, we're going to have a pretty well set grid. Ocean, speaking of, just about to cross the line, has improved 2 of the sectors. What can she deliver? In the deaths, a big jump up to 4th. What a way to finish qualifying. Colangelo up into 4th, nothing to it, and takes it by a mere 100th of a second over Danny Davison.
Yeah, it's such tight margins, and it's so hard to put in a lap that you need to, but some really fantastic results there, and a couple of names that we didn't see in the first race. So it's going to be interesting to see how this longer race is tackled, Joe.
Yeah, absolutely, it will. This is always the part of iRacing that I struggle the most with, is trying to decide how it's going to let us keep an eye on qualifying. It's really bizarre, but the way that this particular series is set up, the fact that these drivers do get to complete their hot laps that they're out on, means that if you can get onto a hot lap before that timer ticks over, you've got a little bit of extra up your sleeve, and we see if Geordie Slater can actually just improve that position now. With that final lap, not going to get it done there. Still another few more drivers still out on track, I should say, with an opportunity to go a little better. Colangelo is still on a flying lap as we await just a couple more drivers across the line. Tristan McLaren currently in 15th. Big slide from the rear end of that F4 as he makes his way towards the final turn. Let's see what he's got up his sleeve.
I absolutely wouldn't imagine that a slide there as you are completing a lap is going to help you out and do what you want to do. No, absolutely not.
As much fun as it is, I'll be honest, sliding an open wheel, there's not much else like it. Colangelo pulls out of that one. Banerjee going to continue the lap. Will it be an improvement from 9th? No, not that time around. Millington and Danny Davison, the last 2 on track. Let's see what Millington's got up the sleeve. Again, not looking like a fast lap, and I don't think we'll see an improvement there from Danny Davison either in the background.
No, it's it's good to see them putting in the effort, but it's just one of those. It's just one of those things. Sometimes you don't quite have what it takes on that very last lap, and unfortunately don't get to improve. But a really good looking grid has been set up.
As we wait now for the official results to just flow through to us, we'll be able to bring in the grid for race number 2, and the drivers will be getting out on track very, very quickly once again, I'm sure, and looking to get underway and just keep that muscle memory fresh. Take a look at the bend. Honestly, for a track that seems so featureless, it's got nothing around it anywhere nearby, but the track itself just absolutely gorgeous to look at.
Your version of gorgeous and mine may be a little different, Jared.
Look, I'm attracted by the corners, not the fancy scenery on the sides.
That's a fair way to put it. There is certainly a lot happening in that shot. There is a huge number of corners. It is such an impressive facility. But more impressive, Jared, is this grid.
So let's take a run through it. Benjamin Roberts takes pole here for race number 2 alongside Thomas Hinds and Kane Ryder and Danny Davison. Colangelo and Perwin behind them. Geordie Slater and Hayden Millington ahead of Richard Banerjee and Dan Ackland rounding out your top 10. We take a look further back through the grid. Dylan DeBono and Seth Burkhart's line up on row 6 ahead of Daniel Byrne and Alexi Watson. Then Tristan McLaren and Josh Marsh, followed by Darren Fahey and Todd Parks. Vaughan Ryder and Ben Ryder lining up alongside each other from Team Max Boost. I tell you what, turn one's going to be interesting there for row number 10. Then William Fraser and Mitchell Hathaway, the last of the drivers on the grid. Lachlan Cappell, Scott Bartine and Jake Rebelliard return for race control duties here, and we get ready to go racing once again, Josh.
Nothing more exciting, is there? I love these nights where there's two races. Nothing better than having the opportunity. You know, you've just done one, you're on a high. Let's go again. 30 minutes this time, and the ability to throw a bit of strategy in. It's only a tiny amount of fuel, Jared. I think it's we're expecting to see somewhere in the vicinity of 7 litres of fuel needed. It's really not going to be much. These little F4s, they don't use much fuel. So not a huge amount required to get through this race. Somewhere in the vicinity of 47 litres needed. They've already got 40 on board. I don't even think you'll see these guys taking tyres. These are going to be some very, very quick pit stops. Gut feel tells me that it will be run long, see how big of a gap you can make, minimise the impact, unless a safety car's on track. And if a safety car's on track, everyone will come in.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see as we get our starters orders. We wait for the lights now. Revs come up throughout the field. And we are underway for race number 2 here at the Bend. Again, a fairly clean start all around, a minimum of tyre smoke as we look down through the field. They make their way down towards turn 1. Roberts retaining the lead at this stage, but as always, a very, very close thing as the drivers jockey for position into turn 1. Hopefully, all making it through in one piece again. And again, a very, very clean start. Plenty of racing room given. Nobody wants to break an axle on turn 1, lap 1 of a race of this length. But the battles will commence in earnest as we get further on into this lap and this racing order starts to settle itself in. We are just seeing the first of these moves, but even now, so much of the track width being used up here, Josh. It is a big moment there. Huge lockup. Thankfully, doesn't look like we've got too much damage to the field. A car off in the background. It looks like it might have been Fraser, unfortunately, just finding his way off the track in that corner. But we are looking fairly tidy otherwise as we make our way around here on lap 1. Ben Roberts still in the lead and still looking fairly comfortable. And a big moment there. That's, who's gone down through? Is that Daniel Byrne getting caught up in that? We've got a car upside down. Is that Hayden Millington? It is. Surely. Hayden Millington is upside down on the track. This has got to bring on a safety car, surely, as we wait to hear from race control. That was a huge incident.
And more cars off, Jared. More cars off in the background that I just saw on my feed. I didn't catch who it was, but I did see a Team Max Boost car off in the grass.
It might have been Ben Riders out there.
Huge incident there. I haven't seen a safety car yet, but I was just about to say, Jared, as I was just watching, there was a group of cars, and I think it was about 6 of them that were just running side by side, just corner after corner after corner. I was really impressed, but I was just starting to get that feeling that something's going to happen. There's only so many corners that you can run side by side for before your luck runs out. And I say that there's no doubt that these drivers are absolutely phenomenally talented as we see them go 3 wide here through, I think that's turn 3. There's no doubt that these guys and girls are so incredibly talented, but these cars are so easy to trip over each other with that, it didn't surprise me at all to see an incident after so many corners side by side. A shame, a real shame to see Millington upside down on the roll hoop, but glad that we could continue racing nonetheless. Roberts and Ryder out front didn't quite pull the gap that it looked like they were going to pull. I was certainly just about to mention to you before, Jared, that 6 cars all side by side, that's going to be exactly what they were looking to see in their rear vision mirror. But still almost a second back to Josh Purwain in 3rd, but a really big group of cars starting to form up. And other than Dylan DeBono, who is about 2 seconds behind Davison in 7th. Everyone else line astern throughout the entire field.
We see Byrne and is that Vaughan Ryder from Team Max Boost, the Bend Motorsport entry alongside Vaughan Ryder, and nothing being given at the moment. Just trying to hold those lines down. This is the interesting thing about your Formula cars, right? You can actually afford to get into battles where you are running side by side. You're not going to cost yourself a lot of time, but what you are going to cost yourself is in tyres. A lot of extra heat being generated in these very soft compounds, and it can make a very distinct difference to your ability to continue that over a number of laps. So you don't want to be in it for too long.
No, these cars, though, Jared, they actually don't make an enormous amount of downforce for a Formula car, and they also don't have a huge amount of power. So the nice thing about that is the stress that's going through those tyres for a Formula car is reasonably limited, which does mean that we don't fry the tyres off them too quickly, as we do see now here, De Bono and Bouchard's in a battle for 8th. Absolutely fantastic racing. They're going side by side and arguing over the position, but giving each other just enough respect to make sure that not.
Take a look a little bit further back. Darren Farley's been all over the back of Tom Donahoe for the last sort of lap and a half as they look ahead to Todd Parks and Vaughan Ryder just up from them. Battles right throughout the field still, and Roberts not seeming to pull the same kind of gap out in front that we saw him walk away with in race 1. I do wonder if that's an intentional strategy. Is he maybe trying to save just a little bit of fuel here?
There will be a little bit of it, Jared, where while ever Kane Ryder can stay in the tow, it's far more difficult for Ben Roberts to pull away out front. So what we may see is that lead just gets very gradually bigger and bigger, and then once that tow's broken at about the 1 second mark, sub-lead expands, because there's no doubt that Kane in second place is getting a little bit of help being dragged along by the car in front.
Keep your eye here on Geordie Slater, just midway into this pack, sitting in 4th right now, but all over the back of the Millen Esports entry of Josh Purwain. There is every chance he's going to get a run here at some point in this lap and try to force the issue. It's one of the interesting things, though. You immediately lose so much pace and acceleration as soon as you pop out from behind the car, so you really got to pick your timing, and a lot of the time that is under brakes into these turns. It's going to be really tough, though, here at the Bend. Again, we said earlier, it's a very quick racetrack, and so not quite as much slow speed stuff to make the most of, as we see Donahoe getting caught up in between Ryder and Fahey, with Parks just out in front. Ryder looking to pass here if he can. It's a very, very tight run thing. Daniel Byrne further up is probably just appreciating the extra bit of breathing room he's got right now as these 4 battle it out for 15th.
Yeah, and not only is there a little bit of extra breathing room there, but that breathing room will get more and more as these guys battle. But what a fantastic battle it is. There's probably nothing in motor racing that's quite as enthralling as a group of Formula cars running really close together. I think, it doesn't matter what sort of motorsport you're genuinely into. There's just something special about wings and slicks cars so close to each other and really starting to put that battle on. And thankfully, whilst these cars are wings and slicks, they are still able to battle. There's nothing more disappointing than when we get to the level of something like Formula 1, Jared, and passing just becomes almost entirely impossible because they are so dependent on the huge amount of aero they make.
I was going to mention, I hope Formula 1 are listening, because close racing like this is what we want to see, and it's certainly not something that features not so much these days in the top echelon, does it?
No, unfortunately they are a long way down the aero. And, Formula 1 presents a million amazing things for us to look at and think about and talk about. Close, door-to-door style racing, which is an interesting term to use for a car that you drop in through the top of.
What should we call that? Anyone in the chat?
Wheel to wheel is the correct.
Wheel to wheel, I suppose.
Wheel to wheel is the correct term in Formula racing, but that close racing is what really makes motorsport. But it is not something that features in Formula 1 for all of the amazing things it does. Really close racing isn't it, but that's okay. that's why we come to these more junior categories. And, you know, Formula 4 is the first step into wings and slicks for a lot of drivers. They've just come out of Formula 4, which is very easy to get confused when you're trying to talk too quickly. And these are a really great place to breed, you know, and hone your driving skills and your ability to race closely with other people, because there is the ability to race closely here, and these cars probably a little more forgiving than others. Speaking of forgiving, Josh Marsh is absolutely sliding that thing all over the place. It is one of the really key parts of these F4 cars is that you do have the ability to slide them, but it's certainly not the fastest way around the track, Jared.
No, not ordinarily what I'd be recommending for anyone, but Marsh making it look okay at the moment. He's managed to not lose too much time to burn ahead in doing so. As the order starts to just sort itself out, people settling into their strategies here. You see in the background though, Darren Fay, Vaughan Ryder and Todd Parks coming through turn one now, still very, very much locked in it. We might just take a moment to have a look back at that incident earlier on and see just how it happened for Hayden Millington. So a lot of traffic at this point. This is, of course, right back on lap one, getting caught up, and unfortunately, once the wheels make contact, up and over he goes. And at that point, there is not a great deal he can do but sit and wait for the marshals to come and retrieve him. We've also had a slightly more recent one, sorry, Josh, with Ben Ryder having a big moment as well. Just off track into the dirt, and of course, the grip's gone. Thankfully, no walls or cars around, and managing to get it underway again reasonably comfortably.
Yeah, absolutely, and that sort of incident, no harm, no foul. It's a learning opportunity, and you know it's nothing more than that. No real damage, and the racing continued, which is fantastic. But that earlier incident, Jared, it's not often that 3 wide works on a racetrack, and you know that was just
maybe
such a shame.
Maybe MotoGP.
Oh,
yeah, maybe. It's a big maybe. I know.
Maybe. But certainly, that was just one of those cases of, you know, 3 into 1 doesn't work, and unfortunately the car in the middle getting a bump from one side and pushing them into the other, it nearly always results in carnage. As we see, the very first pit stop.
Go-karts into the lane.
Yeah, certainly the first scheduled pit stop. So an interesting strategy. We'll see how that works. I don't think that, you know, in touring car racing, we talk lots about undercuts and, you know, the need to, or the opportunity to take fresh tyres and try and grab yourself some track position. Far less a thing here. I don't think that these guys will change in tyres. So it is purely about you know, getting that and keeping on. The one thing I can imagine, Jared, is if you're in a big battle pack and you really feel like you're losing time, but you're struggling to get to the front, might be worth just ducking into the pits, getting yourself some nice clean air and being able to put in good quality fast laps all on your own. But that also, you know, does risk losing that toe, and sometimes it can feel like you're being held up, and you come out on your own, Jared, and suddenly you're actually going slower because you didn't realise just how much that draft from the cars in front was you know, helping your lap time.
Absolutely spot on. Going back to Millington's crash earlier, I can tell you from experience that it is not a lot of fun, particularly if you're in VR, to go through an incident like that. It's a little disconcerting, to say the least.
It is. I can tell you from experience that it's probably even less fun to do it in real life.
Oh, that's a story you're going to have to tell me at some point, my friend. Geordie Slater and Josh Perwin battling it out for third, swapping positions a couple of times, but settling themselves down as they come onto the main straight. And Roberts still within easy distance for a strike here if Ryder can just find the pace that he needs to latch onto the back. Roberts just maintaining that second gap at the moment, not starting to pull away. So certainly reasonably comfortable. I do wonder how much of that is a controlled amount of speed to get the most out of the fuel tank, as opposed to not quite having the same pace as race one, because at this stage in race one, Roberts was out in front by what, about 3 seconds?
Yeah, potentially. It was a pretty healthy margin.
Well, that's an interesting move up the inside. Slater contact with Perwin, and Slater comes off worse. facing backwards is going to have to wait it out here. And unfortunately, there's just so much traffic on the way. Manages to get out of the way as Dan Ackland comes on through, but Slater falling all the way back into 12th and probably further by the time the rest of this field is done catching up.
Yeah, interestingly, Jared, I've just got my ear on the race control comms, and Geordie Slater actually reporting that one. So potentially a self-report, and just doing the right thing and putting his hand up. But I think that Geordie feels a bit aggrieved there and feels like the door got slammed on him. Hard to tell without seeing a replay, but an interesting time. It was a pretty bold move. Potentially one driven by frustration. Geordie had been stuck behind Josh Purwine for a very, very long time, and potentially was just sick of it, and threw his car down the inside. It'll be close. I'm not sure which way any penalty will go if there is one. It was pretty close to the car being where it needed to be. But disappointing nonetheless. I'm sure that Geordie didn't particularly want for it to end that way. Here we go. We do have an onboard here, a big move there, and I'd have to see from overhead, I think, Jared, to know whether he did initially get down there, but the door has definitely been slammed closed by the Vermilion Esports car. It's just about whether he got down far enough in advance. He was a long way in there, and then just unfortunately, that door closed, and a real shame. At the end of it doesn't matter in the incidents who is at fault. It's always just a shame to see a car facing the wrong way.
Yeah, that it is, as we keep on going anyhow. Tristan McLaren and Daniel Byrne getting in amongst it at the moment, and side by side here you can see as the sky just starts to cloud over here in race number 2. The weather conditions are a little interesting this afternoon, given the amount of sunlight that we had not so long ago. All of a sudden things just starting to cool off a little, but then it is that time of year after all, isn't it?
It is. I've just had a bit of a look at the weather. This race will remain overcast for the rest of the race, but probably in cause for celebration for our drivers. No rain set to impact this race. So these drivers will be very happy, as we do see in these overcast conditions, the track temp just falling a little bit. Get the UV off the track, it'll grip up, it'll feel much nicer to drive, and I think the fact that there's not going to be rain straight away in race 1 will probably mean that these drivers all breathe a big old sigh of relief.
Quite possibly. Let's go on board with Daniel Byrne as we make our way down the front straight. The Carlin Motorsport entry just tucked in at the moment behind Tristan McLaren from Everything Simulated, and closing that gap very, very quickly in the slipstream. Not going to get there in time to make a move into turn 1, but certainly setting up for an opportunity perhaps in just a few turns' time. This is a great view, though, of just how beautifully flowy the bend is. If you haven't driven it yet for yourself on iRacing, I cannot recommend it enough. It is a gorgeous track to drive, and it is it's one that I compared earlier in a conversation off air to. It's almost a slightly less bumpy version, in fact much less bumpy, let's be honest, version of the Nürburgring, in the way that you just flow from corner to corner here. It's not stop and start like a lot of other tracks, and particularly the set of right-handers here. Once you nail this line, it is just such a joy to do it over and over again.
You have obviously driven this track, Jared, in a car different to what I have. I have done some preparation laps out here for a supercar league that I'm involved in, and I can tell you now that beautiful and flowy is probably not the vibe that I got in a supercar. Frustrating would have been the word that I would use there, and never-ending is how I would describe one of these corners. But yes, in a Formula car, in something with plenty of grip, it is bound to be an absolutely beautiful track to link all of these corners together, and these drivers tonight making it look oh so effortless. Yes, it was. It was a huge moment. Thankfully for Burkhardt, he has a teammate in Josh Marsh just behind, so they will work together. Although Geordie Slater looking to make some moves forward and make amends for his earlier spin.
Now, Ben Roberts has just come in for that pit stop from DPR Racing and dropped from the race lead. Look at the lineup of cars behind that have followed his lead, though. Tristan McLaren staying out for the moment. He will have to pit at some point here to make it to the end, but as you say, only a 7-litre top-up required. A big dive, big lock-up of the brakes there from Slater, and just getting it back under control. They're side by side as they come to turn 1 as Marsh tries to re-establish the position. Side by side all the way down the straight. This will be very interesting come turn 1.
And you can't deny that that Slater is willing to put it all on the line to make a couple of passes there. That was pretty bold. He got it done but they don't write a story about the results, Jared. They just write that the pass was achieved, and he will now do his very best to set off up the road.
As we take a look a little further up now, this is the pack battling for 4th right now behind Colangelo, and all of these guys just coming out of pits at fairly similar times. Colangelo at the front and Thomas Hinds at the back of this pack of 4 pitting in on lap 10. Davison and Hinds in the middle on lap 8. Perwin and Davison rather on lap 8 with Hinds on lap 10. So a couple laps difference in tyres. Just will be interesting to see whether the extra temp that Perwin and Davison have had an opportunity to put in there will be of any benefit to them here in opening it up. But Colangelo just controlling this pack fairly comfortably from the front. Tristan McLaren now comes in to make that stop. Keep a close eye on where he comes back out.
I can confirm, Jared, that looking at the pit stop times for all of these drivers, absolutely none of them have taken tyres. So, interestingly, this battle continues on the tyres that these drivers started with, which I'm not surprised by. And it does unfortunately take just a little bit of the pit strategy out. Tyres are all the same age. But we certainly, we got some nice fast pit stops. We're seeing pit stops in the vicinity of 4 seconds, and we do now see the very easy to spot liveries of both Vermilion Esports and Team Max Boost absolutely battling it out. And as we just see
big moment there for Perwin, just getting it all sorts of wrong. A little bit of contact involved, I'm sure. And very different story in an open wheeler. You will be off the track for the slightest of touches.
Yeah, just the slightest of touches there. And once again, without being able to review that, not sure whether Ocean just got a little bit offline and touched the back of Josh's car, or whether it was the other way round. But what I can tell you, Jared, is that if we just think a couple of laps back when Josh and Geordie came together, that incident has been ruled as no further action. So, these drivers being let to race, and I would suggest that wherever there is a time that both the drivers have even remotely a part in playing it will be considered no further action.
Now, this will be interesting. Take a look at this at the pass here. You see the Vermilion car sneaking up the inside, and just take a look at this. There's some interesting netcode in that, perhaps. I'll leave that to race control to have a look at. We can't quite see the back of the cars, of course, but always a
perhaps
fun
what I would suggest there, Jared, certainly from just a very quick glance over it looked to me like Ocean had made the apex of the corner, and that presents itself as a bit of a shame, and two cars really battling for the same piece of real estate. Maybe just a little bit too much of a squeeze put on there, and unfortunate to see one car off the road.
Speaking of cars off the road, Seth Burkhart's following not too far behind, unfortunately with his own set of issues all the way through. The contact there definitely at play, and I'll leave that in the far more capable hands of race control to figure out with that one.
I just get a feeling, Jared, that felt very similar to an incident that we had previously seen involving one of those cars. So Geordie Slater is really pushing. And potentially, can't discredit the enthusiasm and aggression that he's showing, but unfortunately been involved in a couple of incidents. And just to round off that previous discussion, car 022 Ocean and Josh Terween is absolutely no further action.
There you go. I'll leave that in race control's hands quite comfortably. Tris McLaren and Dan Ackland getting caught up with Banerjee here. This is not the first time I've seen Banerjee involved in a three-way battle through a corner so far this race, and certainly not even across just the two races tonight. Just a little unfortunate to keep getting caught up in it, but coming out ahead at the moment. Interesting to note, take a look at Ben Roberts now that pit stop's done. 6.5 seconds out in front.
Yeah, it's a pretty commanding lead. Just having a look at the pit stop times, there's nothing particularly in it in his pit stop time.
A few tenths quicker.
Yeah, but not the fastest. So certainly not like he's saved some enormous amount of fuel that's changed things. But a really fantastic job. Obviously put in a really special in lap and out lap and managed to break that toe. And Kane Ryder now is quite a way off the lead and under huge attack from Ocean Colangelo. So that lead for Ben Roberts, I expect, is just going to balloon now that these guys and girls are battling. As we see Ocean throw it straight down the inside at what I believe is turn 5, an absolutely clinical move. That was, no doubt aided by the fact that she was passing her teammate there, but what a beautiful pass for second place. And now, unfortunately for Kane Ryder, he is in a genuine battle to stay on the podium, Jared.
Absolutely, and I will say, if I'm not mistaken, that's not the first time that those two have been battling at about this point in the race. I am not 100% sure, but I'm pretty confident that I saw Ocean battling with, it may not have been Kane Ryder, it may have been Ben Ryder, but I'm pretty certain it was one of the riders that Ocean was battling with in one of the qualifying races for this series that I caught just a couple of weeks ago. So Team Max Boost are quite willing to go wheel to wheel with each other, and I think that's for the better of the race overall, in my view.
No, and you're absolutely right. And Jared, that's one of the reasons why I am so willing to go wheel to wheel with some of my teammates, because it's just better for viewers, isn't it?
Yeah, it makes for fun racing. No point in team orders in simulated racing at this level,
absolutely not. No, absolutely not. But a fantastic race here up the front. But also, as we do cast our eyes to the battle for 13th. These drivers certainly aren't willing to just throw their hands in the air and say, you know what, we'll just trundle around. This is brewing up to be a really nice battle. And if we do look at our totem pole, Jared, lots of spread now. 30 minutes has been long enough. Lots of cars have broken a toe. Only a couple of battle packs, but this is one of those battle packs, and it is really starting to brew up, as we do see now. Tom Donahoe puts a beautiful move on Parks. That was clinical, down the inside, and a really, really assertive move to move himself up into 13th. The question now is, can he disappear off up the road, or is Parks going to get that one back?
And again, getting closer and closer to the end of this race. 26.5 minutes gone of the 30-minute racing time, so starting to count down, just a few laps left in this. Parks is not going to have a lot more opportunities up the sleeve to try and recover that position, and has to also keep an eye on De Bono and Ryder behind, who are still absolutely in this battle. We jump forward to the other rider in the pack, Kane Ryder, still trying to just really in Ocean Colangelo, but Davison and Hinds right on his tail at this point.
Yeah, absolutely, and I'm just gonna put it out there, Jared. Thomas Hinds in 5th place on Monday night was absolutely competing for some, very, very good positions, battling for the lead, if I'm not mistaken, in a supercar league. I think that it shows a huge amount of skill on Thomas's behalf to not only race two wildly different cars in a week, but be incredibly fast and battle for really good positions in both of them. It is an impressive drive to be top 5 in a field of this class, having been, also top 5 in a supercar race just a couple of nights ago.
Yeah, and that's not to take anything away from the drivers here who mainline their open wheelers, but it's a very different approach to racing that allows you to be competitive across categories like that. it's an impressive thing, absolutely. Meanwhile, I am equally slow no matter which car I get into. I think that's almost the same thing, isn't it, Josh?
Consistency is key, Jared, and consistency is far more important than just about anything else. And if you're consistently slow, mate, that's okay.
It's a starting point, right? It's a starting point.
You are consistent, and that's all that matters.
Thomas Hinz now really threatening Davison, the privateer, under all sorts of pressure as the Team Jinx Shifters livery is filling those mirrors. And this will no doubt be, if not the final lap, then certainly the penultimate lap as they come around once again. But Ben Roberts down in front looking very, very comfortable and on track to take out both races here tonight. The only question will be who picks up the remaining points from there.
Yeah, it's still open. There's, we see this time and time again in so many different races. We're a minute from the end now, Jared, and more cars are just picking up themselves onto battle packs. We've now got 3 really distinct 4-car battle packs. And the battle for the minor placings is really heating up, and no one's going to sit back and wonder, I don't think.
You know what I find really interesting about this battle for second right now, and it's neither here nor there, but just plain interesting to observe. Thomas Hinz right now, although about to make the pass when Davison gets the door shut, but Davison locks the brakes and goes very wide, so picks up the spot there. Until that moment, Thomas Hinz was down 3 spots. Ocean Colangelo up 3 spots. Basically, Hinz and Colangelo had swapped spots in that battle pack, but otherwise unchanged from the start.
That's impressive.
A bit unusual.
It is a bit unusual, but a shame for I'm not sure who it was now, but a shame that battle pack got broken up. But certainly Thomas Hinz will be breathing a sigh of relief that he got a pass done, or he got a pass handed to him that was reasonably easy. We do now jump back to see.
Locks up and goes wide. Geordie Slater takes the spot.
Yeah, we do, and I do know that Geordie Slater actually has a 10-second penalty hanging over his head, so he's absolutely looking to make up as much ground as he possibly can to ensure that he maximises his position once that 10-second penalty has been applied.
Out in front, though, it is all Benjamin Roberts from DPR Racing as we come around now. This should be. And I'm not sure. We've had some interesting issues of late with the flag detection. And sure enough, the white flag was waved for Ben Roberts on the last lap. So going to cross the line here and take the win in race number 2. Make it look easy at this point.
Oh, I was just thinking to myself, wow, we went 30 minutes, and I don't think we looked at Ben Roberts once, but that just shows how commanding that victory was. Ocean holds on to second place in front of Kane Ryder for a team max boost 2-3. They are going to be absolutely swinging from the rafters in celebration for that. Thomas Hinz in 4th. Josh Perween in 5th. Danny Davison in 6th. Daniel Byrne in 7th. Richard Benji in 8th, Dan Ackland in 9th, and Geordie Slater rounds out the 10, but Jared does have that penalty just looming large to affect his final race result.
Yeah, and look, obviously some other calculations to go on there, but nothing can take away from the amazing drive from Benjamin Roberts in both races tonight. Very, very dominant, and if that's the sort of performance that we're expecting to see across the rest of the season, absolutely will be the one to catch. Even Colangelo, who we know is no slouch in an open wheel, is 7.5 seconds back almost in the end. Just speaks to the amount of pace that Roberts has shown tonight. Now, whether that's a factor of being particularly familiar with this track or just with the car overall, the rest of the season will really tell us about that. And as we wait for Roberts to make their way around the track, let's talk about the season briefly tonight at the Bend, but the rest of the season looks a little like this. Motegi next week, followed by Phillip Island on the 24th of July, which will be a real treat in an F4. Okayama, then Bathurst. We go to Fuji in Winton, and then we finish on the 28th of August at Suzuka. A really, really stellar lineup of tracks for an open wheel series. I'm looking forward to every single one of them here, Josh.
Yeah, absolutely. I was just thinking, I actually hadn't had a chance to look at the calendar for this season yet, and as you read through that, that just screams open wheel racing. That's a fantastic calendar, and everywhere from the most famous open wheel circuits in the world, like Suzuka, all the way to Winton. What I can tell you is that the track list that the guys here at FDL have picked are absolutely prime open wheel tracks to produce just some great racing.
100%. As we take a look at the results from race number 2 here, and while I just update that because I think our point system just a little off the mark, we will welcome to the booth Benjamin Roberts. Ben, first of all, pleasure to speak to you for the first time here with Formula Drivers League. What a commanding performance tonight. Is that something we should be expecting from you from here on?
Hopefully. That's what I'm hoping for. Yeah, look, I guess the advantage with this series is, I've done heaps of practice in this current track combination earlier in the week as I'm doing sort of the F4 regional officials. So, yeah, so it doesn't take very long to get sort of reclaimed of a track.
Ben, that's a massively commanding, performance tonight. A couple of people, particularly Ocean and Kane on the podium, who are, genuinely quick drivers. Just tell us, how hard were you pushing tonight? Were you on the limit, or did you just, genuinely have a huge amount of speed and you spent the night cruising around out the front?
Wouldn't say I was pushing, but wouldn't say I was cruising either. This sort of level of competition, there's really no point in cruising around, to be honest. But yeah, once I was sort of able to get a little bit of a lead and get just about out of draft, I could just sort of drive to a relatively sort of safe pace and conserve the tyres a little bit.
And how important is it, or how difficult is it to break that draft of the cars behind? I was sort of talking to Jared through that and predicted it a little bit that it's going to be one of those things where it takes a while to break the draft, but once it happens, the lead will balloon. Did it take longer than you thought? How happy were you once you saw that you were starting to move away?
It was about what I expected. I sort of anticipated that I'd have to either really push to sort of try and break the toe and sort of burn up rear tyres a bit, or really just hope for mistakes. And especially in that feature race, so the gap to P2 was just enough so where they couldn't really fuel save properly behind me, so they still had to run at a pretty good pace to keep up. So that wasn't too much of an issue. I knew I'd practiced the pit entry as well. That was a really important thing, so I was pretty confident with that. And once I came out of the pits, had that extra gap, I knew I was pretty safe.
Mate, one last one from me. I don't think I'm going to be here every week, so I'm really interested to understand. Pretty cool calendar. We just went through it before you joined. Where are you getting to in one of these F4 cars?
I guess most of these tracks I'm pretty confident with. Really, sort of maybe Suzuka, sort of worried about, and Phillip Island with sort of so much drafting. I think that's going to be a little bit of chaos, maybe. But yeah, all in all, over the weekend or over the championship, I'm pretty confident with the track selection.
Well, look, a fantastic result from a week one. At the very least, Benjamin, a great start to your campaign here for the championship. Congratulations on the results. Looking forward to potentially getting a chance to chat to you again over the next 7 or so weeks, eh?
Yep, 100%.
Good stuff. So thank you so much for dropping by. Benjamin Roberts taking the win in both races. We'll let him get back to it as we bring third place into the booth, and we welcome Kane Ryder to the booth. Kane, you with us?
Yes, mate.
An interesting one to watch from our perspective, and a pleasure to have you here for the first time in the Simple Racing broadcast booth. How is it out there battling for so long against a teammate?
with OC, it's generally very good because she's very clean racer. So like we've got pretty, we let our drivers race, but like in the end, I had no rear end, so I was just letting OC go in the end, and I was going to block her if I had to, but her pace was well, so she kept me out of the other people's attacks. So.
Well, in the end, a pretty decent night of results for you. Looking ahead to the calendar, I know Josh just asked the same of Benjamin Roberts. Some really cool tracks in there. Anything in particular that stands out as a favourite of yours, one where we should really keep an eye on your pace, or are they all much of a muchness to you?
Yeah, all much for a muchness. It's just good that they're following the global series, so plenty of people show plenty of practice on the tracks that we do. So I think we'll see more top racing like we did tonight. But Ben Roberts is just on another planet. He's like world class, so I expect him to be the benchmark for the whole season.
Duly noted. I'll take some notes on that one as we get ready to watch the rest of it. Regardless, though, a really quality night of racing. I've thoroughly enjoyed it for round one, as I know Josh has as well. Congrats on the result for Team Max Boost, and looking forward to hopefully chatting to you again soon.
Yep, hopefully make a habit out of it.
Fingers crossed, fingers crossed. Well done, Kane. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
As we go now to our P2 finish in race number 2. Oceani with us. Ocean, do we have you there?
Yep, sorry.
We do. No, you're right. Hey, welcome to the booth for the first time with Simple. It's been a great race or series of racing to watch this evening. You were looking really comfortable and certainly, as expected, pretty quick out there tonight. How did it feel in the cockpit?
It might have looked a bit comfortable for you guys, but it wasn't that comfortable for me. Tail and Bend, pretty unfamiliar track for all of us. We're still learning its secrets, and towards the end, my tyres were starting to go off, so I was sliding a little bit. So yeah, just managing the tyres and also the slipstream. It was a bit difficult to catch people or go away from them because at the start everyone was just in a slipstream train.
Yeah, wow. So look, I think that speaks volumes to me, because it certainly didn't come across from our perspective that you were having any sort of struggles with that. The pace was absolutely cracking all night. If that's something that we can expect from you sort of every week, then I'm really looking forward to seeing what you can deliver with the weeks ahead for Team Max Boost, and great to see a P2 and P3 for you tonight. I've asked everyone else tonight, so I think I have to throw you the same question. With the lineup of tracks ahead of us, anything in particular that you're looking forward to that's a bit of a pet track for you?
No, not really. The Mategi is a track for me that I haven't done before, so that one will be new. But I know the other ones pretty well, but I wouldn't say I have a particular one that, I'm like really good at or anything like that.
A bit of an all-rounder, nothing wrong with it at the end of the day, and certainly hasn't stopped you here tonight, taking out P2 there in race number 2. Oceana, a pleasure to chat to you. Thank you so much for making the time, and looking forward to, hopefully having another chat to you in the booth again before the season is out.
Yeah, hopefully it's a great first round, and hopefully, we can do something similar for the next ones.
Fingers crossed. Well done tonight, Oceana, and we'll let you get back to it with the team. Ocean Colangelo there taking out P2 in race number 2. And Josh, I think a good opportunity for us. Obviously, there's a lot to go in terms of calculating a few of the penalties that may have applied along the way this evening. But as a bit of an indicative, at least for now, this is where the provisional points stack up after this first round. Now, keeping in mind that the qualifying extra point has been added for pole position, but fastest lap points have not, and also, as I said, quite a bit to account for in terms of penalties that we saw coming through tonight. But the story out in front, the top three, Roberts, Colangelo and Perwin, are pretty dominant, although Ryder, Hins and Byrne not too far off the back. But then the rest of the field quite a long way back tonight, and certainly a pretty dominant display from Roberts and Colangelo, you've got to say.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, what we saw tonight is a really fantastic open battle from, probably somewhere about the top 5 or 6 back. I think my gut tells me, Jared, that you're going to see a lot of the same names in those top 5 or 6 positions for the whole year. But after that, what a battle. Opportunities for everyone. You're going to see some really interesting ebbs and flows throughout the season. There's no doubt about that. But it's going to be really exciting. And yeah, those couple of drivers out the front are just so fast and so good that I think that they're going to have their own. That'll be exciting to watch. But I think that we can probably already pick a group of people that's going to be running around out the front doing their own thing for a lot of the time.
Yeah, and look, the great news for us, of course, is that with battles going on throughout the pack, it does make it a much more palatable affair from a broadcast perspective. Certainly much more enjoyable for all of you at home to see some really close battles going on right up and down through the pack. It's not going to be a case of a processional from start to finish. It's really going to throw up a number of these battles right up front, but also in the mid-pack, I think, all season, as the drivers start to just get a feel for who it is around them that they're likely to be running up against each week. It's something that we see quite often with these good-sized packs, Josh, and I don't know about you, but I can't wait for more.
No, absolutely. I did touch on it just a little bit before. I'm not sure that I'll be here for the rest of the season, Jared, but I'll be tuning in, no doubt, on YouTube. It's a fantastic series and going to be so very exciting. Lots of really close, fast racing, and you couldn't ask for anything more out of a Formula League. There's absolutely no doubt about it.
Absolutely spot on there, Josh, and a really solid start to the season, of course, for all of our drivers, regardless of where they sit throughout the pack. As we try and figure out what on earth is going on with our championship that just doesn't want to leave the screen. It wants us to look at it longer. Unfortunately, we've got to get underway and get on again. But hey, if you've enjoyed the racing tonight, and I have no doubt that you have, then please do make sure you subscribe so that you're notified of the upcoming races. We'll be here on Thursday nights for the next 7 weeks as we look to decide just who will walk away with the championship at the end of this. The Everything Simulated F4 Championship, of course, supported by Player One Sim Gear, has gotten off to a fantastic start here at the Bend. Plenty more top racing on the way. So we will make sure that we bring all of that to you right here with Simple Racing Broadcast. A huge shout out to Formula Drivers League for the opportunity to bring you this coverage. I'm really keen to keep it going. And certainly I know Josh will be on the sidelines watching whenever he's not in the booth with me. It's been an absolute pleasure, as always, folks, to have you along for the ride. Do make sure you stay tuned. We've got more racing on Monday night with the MC Motorsport V8 series, of course. So if you'd like a bit of a change from open wheelers, then come on over and check it out. But regardless of when we see you next, it will be an absolute joy to bring all of this racing to you. So until next time, a massive thank you for everyone here. It is goodbye for now.